What is the weirdest experience you've had in prison?
The weirdest?
Yeah.
Okay, what was pretty weird was seeing ducks and rats in the same vicinity as each other.
Playing with each other.
Well, they weren't enemies.
They were cool.
You'd see them both running across the outside,
That's
and that
jokes.
was pretty weird, to be fair.
Okay, that's jokes.
Okay, what about you?
I don't know, man. Prison's weird, a place anyway.
Just being in prison.
It's weird anyway.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Zak.
And I'm Jules, and this is Life After Prison, The Sit Down, a brand new podcast from National Prison Radio, where we open up the conversation about life after release. So in every episode, we talk to incredible people whose lives have been affected by the criminal justice system.
Yes, we do. You know, at times having a conviction can be a major stumbling block, especially when you're rebuilding your life again. However, nowadays there's a big push on people with lived experience, especially of the criminal justice system, to be included and employed by organisations using their expert knowledge. And I think we're a prime example of that here, especially with the guests that we have on.
Yes, so today in the studio, we have the lovely Tassie, who is the National Lived Experience Lead at HMPPS. So, hello, Tassie.
Hello, Jules.
Thank you for joining us.
No, thank you for having me. I've loved working with NPR throughout my career, but I'm really, really proud to be here and to speak to you today.
Oh, well, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, we are super happy you are joining us. So, first of all, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and what your relationship is to the criminal justice system?
Yeah, of course. So like you said, I'm the National Lived Experience Lead for the organisation. I haven't held the post for too long, but I'm really, really proud to hold the post for HMPPS. So I support people that have had criminal convictions and have been in prison or on probation, trying to find jobs in the Ministry of Justice or the wider civil service. I support the organisation in their understanding of how to embed the voice of lived experience and what the different experiences people bring and how important it is to hear and use co-design techniques to help them co-designing solutions to the work with them. And then thinking around how people can actually communicate their needs and how many different solutions they have to navigate in different problems. So we're not creating a space where we lock people behind their doors and we interact with them in a negative way, but we don't take that time to kind of explain how to handle the situation differently. So when they get out and in release into the community, they actually have different tools at their disposal rather than sending them out with the same tools they had in their belt, which caused them to offend in the first place.
Yes, I love that.
Wow.
I love that you touched on, and I love that you touched on co-design as well in there, you know, because at the same time, you can't be a one-sided, one side can't have all the answers. It has to be together, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think something that I've learned, and it was a little bit of a learning curve because I did spend time on the other side of the gate. I was in prison. I've been on probation, but to sit and to work with the colleagues and some of the brains that are in their head that don't have lived experience, and I learn so much from them every day. I couldn't do my job without learning and building from the skills that they have. So it has to be a collaboration of all parties to really get that right result, because there's a way of speaking to people, there's a way of framing things, and there's so much writing that goes on behind the scenes that I don't really want to do that myself anyway.
So you even touched on it just there. So how long did you serve in prison, and what was your conviction?
So I've had a different history with the criminal justice system. I entered into care when I was younger in a few different care settings, and then that led me into getting into trouble in the youth estate first. So I spent time on referral orders in and out of the youth estate and committed crimes then. And then when I was 18, just on the cusp of turning 19, that's when I actually got my adult sentence. So I did just over 3.5 in different female prisons.
Years, right?
Yeah. And so I kind of bounced around a little bit, but I essentially, my last and biggest charge, an adult one, was conspiracy to sell Class A and possession of a firearm. So they were kind of two big things that took me out of the game a little bit for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned that you spent time at how many different women's prisons?
3.
Three different, and we were actually inside together, weren't we?
Yes, we were.
Which was a massive surprise today because we weren't with each other for long. How about a week?
Yeah, it's like a week and a half max, I think.
And the start of our sentence, right?
Yeah.
Which is it's just so lovely to see you here today, smashing life, and the fact that we're actually inside together in a cell. So, yeah.
Prime example of life after prison, right?
Literally.
That's
you was
dope.
my panmate. And look at you now. So amazing. It's amazing to see you here properly today. So, yeah, thought I'd just kind of share that with everyone.
See, real show, real people, you know.
Yeah.
No gimmicks out here. This is real life.
A massive surprise today.
I just wanted to ask.
A nice surprise.
Nice surprise.
It is a nice surprise.
I just wanted to ask you quickly, what was life like leading up to those offences, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, it was crazy, honestly. I sit and I was speaking to my best friend about it the other day, and we talk about it as though it's like this thing, and we reminisce quite numb to the experiences because you just become so desensitized to life after a while. But I was kind of sat there and actually like really looking back through my life, and before I had the opportunity to get removed from it. And I always say, like, going into prison, it saved my life because I would have ended up dead, or I would have ended up committing a way worse crime and probably still being there now and not being able to be the Tassie that sat in front of you. But it's situations that nobody as a child should ever be in, navigating life. I guest lectured the other day, and I said to the new prison officers, how do you rehabilitate somebody that was surviving, that was literally going through life, like not trying to commit the crime, but was just surviving from day to day, that was in situations where people were literally bleeding out in front of them and they were trying to save their lives, or they were ending up in situations where they are doing really, really bad things, but it's all because that is the only thing that they know. They've got nobody else to. And once you've created that construct that no matter how bad somebody is, or no matter what they stand for, is the only people that care about you, that's everything to you. So in a world where, like, I started off sleeping in the streets, and when you're homeless, I don't think people really tell you the stories of what happens to the homeless people. I was like 14 and sleeping on streets, and some of the things that happened were disgraceful. So by the time I met even worse people that were doing even worse things, they were a safe haven to me because it took me off the street. So it wasn't, there are times and there's things and I look back on situations that it doesn't represent what I value as a person, but it was what I had to do at the time to kind of survive.
I fully relate with that, you know, because you see, with me, I was on the roads when I was young, like 14, 15, yeah, and exactly what you've just said there. I know dozens that have gone through that same thing. Like, what else do you know? What else can you say at that time? And when you're trying to explain that to other people who haven't been in that situation, they don't get it. They don't understand that, you know.
I think like everything, what you've just said there, obviously, thank you for sharing that, number one. But like it is part of like what we really want to do as well, is like, you know, there's a reason why people, majority of the time, you know, there's a reason why people are in the situation they're in, or, you know, how things happen, how they end up going to prison and stuff. There's a journey that they've gone through. There's something. There's a backstory. It's not just, they're in prison, blah, 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 you know, and everything that you've just said there it's deep, you know what I mean? It's emotional. So, And it's your truth. You know? It's your journey. It's your story. And that's incredible, really. So, I mean, you touched on it a little bit just then, but you said going into prison, like, it saved your life. I wanted to ask you how you adapted to prison, and How did you think? First of all, how did you adapt to prison, and what were your struggles when getting in?
I guess that it was massive. Like there was loads of different variations of stages that I kind of like went through. So initially, I didn't have the mindset. Like if you knew me back then, I was still like condoning my actions and my behavior. Like I didn't care that I'd done it because I was like, yeah, of course I did it. I knew exactly what I was doing at the time, kind of thing. I guess I was still so childish in my own mind that for me, initially, it was all just one big joke. It wasn't because I'd watched people in like my circle. It's just something that we did. Like, okay, I thought I was slick and I like tried to avoid it for as long as possible because I'm good at what I do in the kind of like criminality world of it. So I'm not going to get caught. And then when I got caught, like you make the excuses, like it's not really a thing anyway. I'm going to do my bad. I'm going to come back out and I'm going to hop straight back on the line and do those kind of things again. So initially that was my mindset. So I went in as like a naughty, I was young as well. So I went in as a naughty YO. I was still thinking that I was bad. I was on remand, so there was the nerves, but I just entered into second day in. I'm fighting. I'm trying to work out who's the biggest person on the YO wing. Like I just don't care. I've got 3 people sat at the top of the wing telling me they run this wing, and I'm sat there like, I don't think so.
And just to confirm, YO is
young adults,
young
offender.
Yeah. So you were young when you went in.
Yeah, and I'm ready. Like I'm used to dealing with grown men. Like I'm used to being a young person in an adult environment and leading despite my age, even if it's through a negative way. So like for me, and knowing like the prison environment, I wasn't going to walk in there and feel like anybody could take advantage of me.
Yeah.
So, and all those preconceptions that you have of prison, like I went in there with that, like, I'm gonna be the baddest because I don't really care. And it was only when I went to the adult wing, because I'd been fighting, and this was like I'd been fighting and I'd had enough. I just thought like I was beefing with everybody on the YO wing, like every single person I was just ready to go with. And I came off the wing one day and I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not doing this. Like, you need to move me. And I'm like, there's nowhere else to put you. Like, this is where you belong. I said, you're going to have to figure it out. By this point, I'm on 28 days basic already. I've got a nicking in like 2 days. So I've sat outside and refused to go back on the wing, and they finally moved me. And it was when I went to the adults that I kind of settled down a little bit, not for long, because a baby on an adult wing means you can get away with even more because they're all grown and you're the only one, and they just make excuses for you. So it's like, oh, Tassie will make your bed for you. It's absolutely fine. Like you can throw a tantrum because you don't like something. So I did that for quite a while because it got me quite far. It's not good. Like it's not good to admit, but it did get me quite far. And then I don't know what happened, but then I started feeling sorry for myself. And I think everyone goes through that phase. Yeah. Like you start feeling sorry for yourself. And to make it worse, because a lot of the individuals that I'd impacted were kind of coming in. So in Peterborough, B Wing is the people that have substance misuse problems. So they kind of go in and they have to do their lie down and whatnot. Yeah, and like you'd see them coming in, and I was working in reception and I was like, I did this, like not to some of them specifically, but not to some of them specifically, but I was still there like, I've done this. And then I went like on a spiral of like self-pity and like, poor me, and I'm a horrible person. But then I kind of woke up one day and was like, I don't want to feel sorry for myself anymore. And yes, I have been this person and I made these decisions, and some of the actions have turned me into somebody that I never wanted to be. But I also have the ability to change that narrative and to be something else to them now. And that's where my sentence changed for me.
Love that.
I mean, that's a journey, you know, that whole journey that was detailed. So well done for that. But it makes sense. And that is well done for getting to you know, through that journey, because there was some steps there.
Yeah. And I think it's real that everyone goes through a little like cycle of like, okay, you're in there, I'm still bad. And then like, oh, right, I'm going to be in here for a while, and then adjusting, and then realizing that, looking at your offense. And so you went through all of those degrees and then it clicked for you, right?
How do you think prison affected you?
Yeah.
It gave me back my voice, honestly. I say this, and kind of doing the work that I started to do and to have that like change of mindset and even just becoming a peer mentor, it gave me back my voice. I remember speaking to one of like the induction officers on the induction wing, and he was laughing with one of the other prisoners. Or when Tassie came in, she had her head down, and like I came in with 2 black eyes, like cut stitches in my face. Like I wasn't trying to argue with people. I was already damaged. But to kind of like watch that growth and for me to start getting my voice back, I was involved in like gangs and stuff like that where there is a hierarchy and your voice gets taken away to an extent. You don't kind of get like too much of a say. And especially growing up in care as well, when you've got constant practitioners writing on behalf of you, speaking on behalf of you, I didn't know what I wanted or what I stood for or anything like that. So that allowed me to kind of decide who I wanted to be and start creating that version of myself.
Love that.
Yeah, well
Say
done.
that one more time. It helped you what?
It gave me back my voice. It helped me create the version of myself that I wanted to be.
He loves doing that, but
No,
it's
I love
important.
that.
It's good because that is a beautiful thing to be able to say, you know, the fact that you are here now and you've got a voice and
A strong one too.
and you
Yeah.
know what you're doing, and it's incredible to see.
So bearing in mind, so that whole journey in prison, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously like you're taking the steps to where you are now. How did you prepare for release when you was about to come out?
Crying a lot.
Okay.
You would have thought like everything was taken away from me when I was released. And I always say this to people, like they always feel like everyone's release day should be their happiest time. But the whole time mine was coming up, I was so sad because for the first time I had people like, whether it was we all got together to watch Love Island at 9 o'clock in the social room. Like we'd cook together, we'd do things like that. I got more Christmas cards in prison than I ever had in my whole entire life. Like we did something at Christmas. Like I had a purpose. Everyone knew me, even when I was acting like a nutter. So I had nothing. I didn't have anything. So it was like so scary for me, and they practically had to kick me out of the gate.
Do you mean you didn't have anything on the outside, like ready and waiting for you or anything like that? So,
yeah. And prison had been my comfort blanket. It turned into somewhere where I was supported and I was happy.
Wow. So with all this in mind now, when you did come out, what did it feel like then?
Felt like someone just took a knife and like cut it dead. And you were just standing on a cliff with blackness. And you didn't know what to do. You got like £56 in your pocket, not a penny to your name. You get to the supported accommodation and they don't even tell you there's going to be no blanket or pillows. Like, and you go, okay, I didn't plan for this. I gave all your stuff away in prison because it's just one of those things that you do. And the vultures descend when your release day comes anyway. So it was. I guess I always say like I wish someone told me to save. I know I didn't have much in prison, but I could have done a little bit better to prepare myself at least.
Yeah, they never tell you what it's really like until you're out there now.
How long did you feel like that for once being released? Like, you know, that feeling of you kind of wanting to go back because it was your comfort blanket.
I think like from my mindset from the beginning of my release was I won't do anything to send me back, but if someone came and stood in front of me today and says, "Oh, we're taking you back, Tassie," I'd be like, "Okay, come on, let's go." Like, so I wouldn't have done anything negative, but I wouldn't have minded either way. And that was probably my attitude for a good 5 months. But what you also learn being in care and kind of being everything to yourself is no one's coming to save you. Nobody care. Like, not that nobody cares, but everyone has their own focus on themselves. And unless you get yourself up every single day and you be that driver, like, and if you sit there waiting for somebody else to come and do it for you,
it's never going to happen.
I'd probably still be sat there now in that same room, like I've got no pillow or blanket. So
bless you.
Yeah.
So the reason for that is because, like, we wanted to know, like, did you prepare for release and what kind of steps did you put in place? Because you've been involved with quite a lot since being released. So we want to know a little bit more about that journey. So can you tell us a little bit about that? And not preparing for all of this.
Yeah.
Or did you have some sort of preparation or some thoughts about what you wanted to do?
No, not really. So when I was in prison, I did make quite a few connections, but something that people don't tell you is there's no way to really reach out to those connections when you're released. So you get excited for nothing. So I had a plan, but the plan didn't work, obviously. I was trying to contact like these business cards and get no answer because they're like, who the hell are you? So I've always been a big believer in, I know what I wanted to do and kind of create that change, but I also say lived experience isn't enough. Like, do you know how many people have been to prison? You have to have a little bit more about you, and I need people to kind of take me seriously on a different level. So I went back into education, which wasn't easy because it's not my way.
After being released?
Yeah. So I wanted to go straight to uni. Didn't have enough qualifications for it. So I went and did an access course and then went to uni, which was a struggle in itself because they are inclusive by face only and not actually within nature. So I really, really fought for my uni place.
So how long was your access course?
Just for a year, but I hate saying this, but I passed by default because it was COVID and it was when they were giving out like, okay, you've done 3/4 of the course already. COVID's kind of hit. We'll give everyone the qualification kind of thing. But I did work hard. I promise you, I earned it.
What did you study? Sorry?
So access to the social science, so psychology and sociology. But if you can do an access course, it's way harder than your first year of uni. So
really?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
And they told you that the whole way through as well. Like you can do this. You'll walk the first year of uni. So.
And then in uni, what did you study?
Criminology. But I'm somebody that can't sit still. So in and amongst that, I obviously have to survive. So I started off working nights, but I just emailed. I went on like the only thing we have at disposal, Instagram and all those things. Just started searching people that support care leavers and just anyone that had an email. I sent them a message saying, this is who I am. This is kind of where my passion lies. I don't have 100% the correct experience, but I also don't want to get paid. I'll just do anything. And I reached out to loads and loads of people. A couple of people kind of came back to me. So I started doing little bits with them, getting involved in like pilots and things like that. And then I set up a business trying to improve outcomes for care leavers in custody on like a strategic level.
So you did this while studying?
Yeah.
Wow.
But I also studied while having a full-time job as well. So
okay, all right. We have to go back again. So studying, full-time job, and starting your business.
Yeah, so I started.
What was the full-time job?
So I did that. So I started the business when I first started studying. I got contracts with like Ofsted doing their training, reviewing their youth justice criteria. I started guest lecturing at other universities. I went to local authorities and did different training and stuff with them. So through that, I was able to get a job in policy with the Ministry of Justice, which was my first job with them.
Wow.
And that was designing health and wellbeing interventions for people with multiple complex needs. So people that kind of are within that revolving door of the criminal justice system have been in and out. Services have almost washed their hands of them. We wanted to design a wraparound support service to try and help them. So I spent a year in policy doing that. But at the same time, I was also doing the degree and did like the majority of my first year and second year while in that post.
So when you first started the work with, what was it? Sorry, Ofsted. How hard or easy was that for you to get in? You said you sent loads of emails out to loads of people. Was that one of the email that came back to you?
No, so that was after quite a while. So
right.
I did like little odd jobs. First of all, volunteering. Then I'd start sending off like I'd start invoicing people for little pieces of work.
As part of your business.
Yeah. So and that's how anything has to start off. Just being like, this is who I am. Like anything. And it was other people that helped me recognise my own potential. So somebody put me in touch with an organisation called Frontline. That's a fast track scheme for social workers, like a university scheme for potential social workers. Okay. And then through that, somebody there that also had care experience and lived experience linked me in with Ofsted. So it really just was a networking, building opportunity.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, really good. Really
so then
amazing.
Obviously you're building up your reputation, you're building up like the work you're doing, so you're getting a portfolio, people are recognising you within the industries.
You're learning.
And that's how you build that credibility, right?
100%.
Meeting more people. Yeah, well done.
I also made it a point to kind of get involved in academic research and like, because that's what really gives you the footing of like, you're not just here spouting your experience, you've also kind of done the work to back it up as well.
Yeah. because you need a bit of both, right?
100%.
You need that balance,
yeah.
just so people know, you know what, she knows her stuff, and she's accredited as well. So don't play kind of thing, innit? I love that. So Tassie, I just want to take it back a little piece because I feel like we jumped a bit. Like, so you've just come out of prison and you're feeling the type of way, you're feeling this kind of negativity, yeah? And then obviously all of a sudden now it gets to that, but I want to know what happened in between, like the beginning of your success and your journey to what you do now, and that feeling of difficulty and negativity of coming out of prison.
So when I first came out of prison, I was in supported accommodation, and like quite quickly, I don't know what happened with the supported accommodation, but they were basically shutting and selling the properties. So it's like, with nothing we can do, you need to get out by this date. So because I was going to college, I couldn't get benefits. So I was also working nights at Asda. So I was going to college during the day, studying, coming home for a couple of hours, going and working all night, coming back home for like 6 o'clock in the morning, trying to get all my coursework done, and then just trying to do it like that. And I was killing myself. And it was all to kind of like try and do the best to just get me out. But no matter how hard I was working, no matter what I was doing, I was literally just living hand to mouth. And even then it wasn't even hand to mouth. It was like hand to nothing. So I was doing uni for a little while, and it was at the beginning of COVID. And for me, COVID didn't happen too long after I was out. But what it did is it like put me even more back in like a prison mindset. And I remember my friends at the time, they were really, really worried about me, and I just completely shut down. I had my leaving care worker who was the first person ever, like social service wise, that I built a good relationship with and had been really, really good to me. She was moving on to a different job, so I'd lost her as well. And I just locked myself in my house for about 4 months, and I got so depressed. I was really, really poorly and really, really bad. I wouldn't get out of bed. I wouldn't open the curtains. I'd eat because I'd order like loads and loads of takeaways, but then I wouldn't eat because I'd take a couple of bites out of the takeaways. So I signed myself off sick from Asda, and I was hiding from them as well because I didn't want to tell them that I'm not actually sick. I just can't deal with life at the moment. And I don't really know what happened. I think naturally, gradually, with anyone that really has a mental health crisis, they get sick of themselves, and that's kind of like what happened to me. I was doing my own head in. I'd already isolated myself away from anyone, so any relationships I'd started to form, I'd already broken them down. And I mean, I didn't want to start setting the behaviour that would lead me back into prison. Like, you are the driving force for your own change. And I said, I've always been the kind of person that unless you get up and do it for yourself, no one's coming. But I guess I forgot that along the way. But what I started at that time in that journey is no matter how much growth I'd had in prison, I'd never took the journey of self-love. I still didn't love myself. I didn't see my own value or anything like that. And actually, until you do that, you won't get anywhere. So it wasn't like on that day I decided to like be this all-empowered human that just adored myself. But on that day I woke up and I chose me, and I chose to start trying to learn how to love myself. And I do now. And it will still constantly be a journey because you still get the imposter syndrome and stuff like that. But I chose, and I woke up that day ready to start inputting into myself and loving myself.
Love that. Did you reach out to like help from like any agencies, or was it like something internal then?
So I think for the first time, because I'm I like to hide things. I like to put on that show to everybody that I am okay, and I'm like this really well put together person, because I feel like if you do show anybody that actually you have a little break somewhere, that will change their perception of you. And now what I've realised is that's just not the case. They actually like to see that you're this human that doesn't always have this face on all the time. So at that time, because I also did have a good relationship with my probation officer, I was like, I know every time I pick up the phone and you're like, oh, because it was phone at that time, I tell you I'm okay, but I'm actually not. I'm not okay. I'm actually really, really struggling at the moment. I don't really want to talk about it, and she was really, really good. She kind of did some referrals and she got me on the mental health thing, and I started actually doing like CBT and working through it. And then later on, I got my autism diagnosis, which makes perfect sense. So you get something and you're like, okay, that just explains so much. So like from like childhood mental health problems, like certain diagnoses I've got through life, and now kind of having this, it's all kind of helped to put those structures of support in place for me.
Excellent.
Yeah, amazing.
And those have benefited you, right?
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Okay, so touching back on like things that you've been involved with now that you are since being released, and you've touched on quite a lot, but one of the things you did say was about guest lecturing at unis.
Yeah.
Can you touch a little bit more on that, because that's an amazing achievement.
100%, great achievement.
Yeah, want to know a little bit more on how that feels now because of where you've been and the feelings you've been in, and being able to be a guest speaker at a uni. Yeah.
It's really, really strange. It's always going to be a strange experience, no matter how far I get in my career and I kind of stand in front of them. But it's one of my favourite things to do. I really find that I'm in my element because you're speaking about your kind of bread and butter and everything that you love and are so passionate about. It kind of stemmed from working with the Frontline Institute, which was the fast track scheme for social workers getting into social work. So they were doing a whole kind of like collaboration, having experts by experience kind of feed into their work. So I initially did the review of theirs, but there's a woman called Claire Fitzpatrick who is so everything care leavers research. She's a brilliant academic. So it was like through working with individuals that I really kind of built up the credibility to do so. And then it was just the feedback. So you think you've got nothing. I always say this, you always think you've got nothing to bring to the table, and you speak to somebody else for half an hour, and they're like, that was brilliant. Like, and they ask these questions and like, hold on a second, maybe I have got something. So it was through that. But then where I had contracts with charities, social mobility is like a huge thing. It's like, how do you give back? Like, how do you reach people on the cusp and all things like that? So through part of that, which is something I'm now working on in a different capacity, was trying to like get involved and to reach out and to do those things.
So do you think another driver of you doing all of this is your passion for what you do, like that made you get up and go?
Yeah. I say every single day, like I don't do it for the money, and I really, really should actually. But I don't mean that in a bad way. I love my job, but I do it for the people. I come to work for the workforce. I work as hard as I do to improve outcomes I call them babies because everyone in the care system are still babies no matter how old you get. I do it for them. I do it for the change, and I do it so hopefully somebody doesn't have to have my journey and not have support and to be everything for themselves, and so that isn't their, so they're not sat with you today telling that's their story.
I'm glad you said that, because I was going to ask you, you've touched on it earlier in the conversation. You said, you've worked with Ofsted, NHS, social workers. Like, is that why you do this work with them?
Yeah.
Like, literally, you're just trying to make sure that what you experience, no one else experiences.
Yeah, if I can change one outcome for like one person, then that's all you can do. Like, just try and make a better life. You can sit and you can feel sorry for yourself. You can make excuses to why you don't achieve, but not just that. I never had like that tangible role model to be like, this person's kind of come, like not really had it easy and has come all this way. And if I couldn't even be one person for somebody to kind of look at and say, well, it's actually possible, and I want to be like her, like I want to try and create the same level of change. Like, I want to be a leader and have a voice as strong as hers, and to actually give somebody a tangible role model to look up to. Like, it's not something I put on myself and I'm like, oh, I'm this brilliant person, but role models come in like all shapes of sizes. And when it's someone you didn't expect, I hope that people see that anything is possible.
I think what you have done since you've come out, especially sharing the journey of how low you have been at times, and to what you're doing now, like, it's amazing. It's incredible. It's a massive achievement. And you should be really, really, really proud of yourself. And
100%.
It's why we wanted you to come on today, and to be able to help the people you want to help, to share that. But we want to know, or I want to know, we want to know now, what are you doing now? And how can other people benefit from what you're doing now?
I feel like it's like, what am I not doing now?
Yes,
but,
go on, Tassie.
I guess so. The focus is my kind of like day job and being the National Lived Experience Lead for HMPPS, and it really is about kind of setting about that change and having people's views and everything that we do kind of evolve around the experiences people have and taking that learning away and embedding it in what we do. And if we have a multi-agency kind of like change across the system and an approach where we are really supporting people and we are giving them opportunities, then that's definitely the focus. But I've supported quite a few individuals that have had similar experiences, not the same because everyone's experiences are different, into roles where they can make a difference as well. So it's not just about me being a leader and trying to make this change, but it's also about giving other people the opportunity to kind of come up through and create their own legacy as well. Like, I won't be in this post forever. I will be doing what I feel that I can do with the system to improve, and then it's somebody else to come in with those fresh perspectives. And so it's really about nurturing the people that are to come, about supporting them and creating leadership across the board for people that have had these experiences, because they're not my lived experience workforce, they're the organisations. But if you met any single one of them, they make me smile every single day. They smash it. They have brains that are just incredible. They work harder than anybody I've ever had on my team. And I it's the way forward, honestly. So if I can support and nurture them to get to where they want to be and where they can be, that's what I'm here to do.
And who are these people?
They're all people that have been in prison or on probation that have had similar journeys that are starting off their career within the Ministry of Justice in different roles, whether it's probation, whether it's in prisons, or whether it's thinking about what we design and deliver in HQ. So
that is incredible.
Love that.
Yes, we love
Thanks for coming on. But before we go, I want to ask you 2 more questions. Yeah?
Just preparing you.
What advice would you give to someone who is just about to be released or who's just been released from prison? What advice would you give them? I'd say don't listen to me and think that just because there's like, I've told you about the 5 months bad time, that I don't still have bad days. Like, it's really easy to see a well put together person sat in front of you and do not see the meltdown I had yesterday. But it's about being okay with that and understanding it comes in like peaks and troughs, and allow your time to have a bad day to be able to come back and be the best version of yourself. But also don't take no for an answer. Like, the amount of people that have told me no, like, you can't do this. I got out and I said to somebody in probation, like, oh, I really want to work with people. At that time, I was like, I just want to be a support worker. That's all I wanted to be. So I was like, oh, I just want to support people. And they were like, yeah, change your thinking. That will never, ever happen. And I was like, yeah, I don't like that answer. So I'm just going to pretend I didn't hear it and I'm going to go find a different way. And that don't take the no and think that is your answer. Go find a different way, or come and ask me, I'll help you. Love that.
Wow, I love both of those.
Yeah.
Do you know what? It's really important that you do touch that. Well, that it is said to not ignore the fact that there are lows still, even though, you know, things are together. Someone may look together, but people have lows. Yeah. So that's
and don't take no for an answer.
And
like,
don't listen to other people.
Try other avenues.
If you want to do something, just go and do it. Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you.
And know your worth as well. Know your worth.
That's 3. That's 3 good ones.
Were there any organisations that like helped you out on your journey to where you are now?
I think I was lucky to encounter organisations after I had my journey, and I always say meeting them earlier would have been so helpful. But in terms of like from the care leaver side of things, the Reese Foundation, the Care Leavers Covenant, Catch 22, they are amazing. And then in terms of just lived experience generally, we've got Prison Reform Trust, Use a Voice, the Revolving Doors, we've got Epic. There's so many brilliant charities.
Wow. Yeah, no, we love that. Thank you.
And we'll put all them charities in our show notes as well.
I just had one more question for you, Tassie. What are your plans for the future?
I've stopped predicting them, because you can set a target for yourself, but it only limits the what you can actually achieve. Now, I didn't have this role in my plan, and it's a shame because I've achieved it. So I don't want to imagine what that will be, because you can always go higher is the point.
Do you know what, but for, let's say, the journey, your next part of your journey that you want to go to, you want to continue in the field you're in and what you're doing, and you're enjoying it?
Yeah, 100%. I think I'll stick here for a little while, but in terms of like long-term plans, supported accommodation for care leavers done properly across the country, supporting them onto the property ladder when they're older. That's my end goal.
So I just want to say thank you, Tassie, for joining us today, sharing openly and honestly with us.
Yeah, thank you so much. You've been incredible.
No, thank you so much for having me. I've really enjoyed it.
You know, I really admire your energy and your spirit.
Yeah, anytime. Please come back.
Definitely. So all the organisations that Tassie mentioned will be in the show description. But please check out our other show, Getting Out, where specifically the employment episode, where we talk about how you can use your lived experience to build a career and gain employment.
Yes, and also please do get in touch if you have learned something today about opportunities for people with lived experience. So please let us know. You can do that by DMing us on Instagram or Twitter at AfterPrisonPod, or you can email us at podcast@prison.radio, or you can even write to us at Life After Prison, National Prison Radio, HMP Brixton, London, SW2 5XF.
Yes, and thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed the show, please follow and subscribe. Share it to all your people. Let them know that where they can find us. It really helps us to get this out to all the people that we can and help as many people as possible.
Yes, so we hope you've enjoyed this sit down, and we'll see you next time.